Hey, it's Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 must-grow food plants for Tasty Meals. And the Tasty Meals part is really important here. I wanted to talk about this because as a dietitian, something that I see really often when people are thinking about nutrition or well-being or maybe eating healthier or whatever it may be, they think that that means their food has to taste bad. Or at least it probably shouldn't taste that good, and that's just not the case. Now, I think this idea comes a lot of times, or the majority of the time, from dieting. Dieting a lot of times gets linked up with nutrition or well-being, and people have learned through dieting that their food shouldn't taste good. But that's not really the case. And actually, it's kind of great for your food to taste good. It's okay to want your food to taste good. And I recommend it. Like, delicious food is one of life's simple pleasures. So if we're thinking about gardening, especially if you are thinking about growing food plants maybe for the first time, or maybe you don't have a ton of space and you're trying to maximize what you can grow, I really think that one good way to think about that is to think about what you can grow that will make your food taste the best. So if we're thinking about things from this kind of cooking and tasty food mindset, the first plant that I think is a must grow in your garden is basil, and especially growing multiple varieties of basil. So I'm talking about, Italian basil, purple basil, Thai basil, lemon basil, Persian basil. There's so many different types of basil. They all have a slightly different flavor. You can get ones that come in different kind of growth habitats as well. Some of them have larger leaves, some of them have smaller leaves, all kinds of different varieties. And I love basil because it adds a ton of flavor, and if you're growing all these different kinds, it really fits into a lot of different types of cuisines. So if you're someone who likes to cook a lot of different stuff, things from a lot of different parts of the world, a lot of cuisines utilize certain types of basil. So if you're growing that in your garden, then you're going to have something that you can put in a lot of different dishes. Fresh basil is also really easy to grow. You can grow it really easily in containers, which is great. So no matter how much space you have, especially if you're limited on outdoor space, you can grow it in a container and it totally works great. That's one of my favorite ways to grow basil. And then the other thing about basil, like a lot of fresh herbs, is it can be kind of expensive to buy at the grocery store. And when you buy it at the store, you're not necessarily going to use it all right then. Sometimes it goes bad. It never feels good to waste food. So when you grow it yourself, you can use the exact amount you need, leave the rest on the plant and let it keep growing. So you're going to get all that great fresh flavor without paying that premium at the store, and you're not going to have to worry about wasting basil because you can just pick what you need when you need it. My second must-grow food plant for Tasty Meals is chives. And chives is one of those things that adds a little, tiny little like sprinkle of flavor, a little bit of something that you can't quite get anywhere else. Plus, again, just like the basil, it's easy to grow in a container, so it works with the variety of growing situations, and it looks really, really pretty. So even if you're in a situation where you're not supposed to have food plants maybe in your yard or on your front porch or something like that because of rules in your community, chives look really nice. And I think a lot of people who don't know what certain food plants look like might not even guess that it's food at all. Now, there are 2 main types of chives you want to think about if you want to try growing this plant. So one type is the kind that has kind of the round, hollow stems. Sometimes they're called common chives. When they go to flower, they have really pretty purple flowers. And this is a kind that I find if you're gonna find chives in like a run-of-the-mill generic grocery store here in the US, you're probably gonna find this kind, but still, sometimes they're hard to come by. I don't find them super consistently, and most of the time when I do find them, they're not looking so great. I mean, they're like a little wilty. Maybe some of them are like kind of half past their prime or even rotting. It doesn't feel good to buy food that's already gone bad. And again, they can come at a premium similar to the basil. So that's the first type that you can grow. And that's a kind also that's a lot of times used in raw applications, using it at the end of the dish, sprinkling it on your baked potato, adding it into a homemade salad dressing or sauce or something like that. The other type of chive that you can grow goes by a few different names. So I've seen it called garlic chives, Asian chives, Chinese chives, all kinds of different things, but they have a more garlic-like flavor and they grow in more of a flat blade-like structure rather than the round hollow structure of the other types of chives that we were just talking about. And when they bloom, they have white flowers. And again, these can be used in all types of recipes, but because they are a bit sturdier, I see them used in cooked applications a little bit more, which is kind of interesting, but you'll see them used all kinds of ways. And with these types of chives, I find that you can really reliably find them in grocery stores if you go to like an H Mart or maybe an international grocery store or something like that. But I don't think I've ever seen them in the kind of like generic run-of-the-mill American grocery store, at least not any of the ones near where I am. So because you can't necessarily always find them reliably, and they add a ton of great flavor to certain recipes, and for some recipes they really are essential, or at least really make a big difference, I think growing chives is a great idea. And the other thing about growing them is you can grow both. You can grow one or the other depending on the types of recipes you make and which one you think you'll use more often. But either way, they're really great. They're attractive plants. They're easy, and they just add a certain something that you can't really get from any other food. The next plant that I think is a must grow if you're thinking about flavor is a cherry tomato plant. There's just nothing like a homegrown tomato. They taste far and above anything you can find at the grocery store the majority of the time, and even sometimes stuff at the farmer's market, because when you grow it yourself, you can pick it right at the peak of freshness, eat it right off the vine. It's a delicious experience. And even sometimes for people who think maybe they don't really like tomatoes that much, sometimes it's because they haven't had one that tastes really, really good, and that's what you can get by growing them yourself. And the reason I say to grow cherry tomatoes specifically is because I think they're a lot more rewarding. You get a ton of little fruits. You can just pick them as they ripen. They're great for snacking. When you're growing a large tomato, the plant is going to put on fewer large fruits, and sometimes if something goes bad with one, especially if you're just starting out and you're not really sure, maybe you're growing tomatoes for the first time, it can feel bad if your plant is putting on just a few fruits and then one of them doesn't get picked at the right time or goes bad or something goes wrong. But when you're growing cherry tomatoes, it's a lot more forgiving. You can also get away with a little less light since the fruits are smaller. So if light is a concern for you, then a cherry can be great for that. You can very easily grow them in containers, and you can get all kinds of different colors. They really, really are a wonderful plant to grow. And you can even start looking at different types of plants that are more well suited to your conditions. So if you're trying to grow in a patio or have a really small space, or you can't do a very large container, then you can get varieties that are made for growing on the patio like that. And so no matter what your situation, you can find a size of plant that can work for your growing conditions. And homegrown cherry tomatoes can add flavor in a lot of different ways. Like I said, they are a great snack on their own, or you can sprinkle a little salt and pepper on them. You can combine them with the basil if you're growing basil, but you can also use them in cooked applications. You can just use them so many different ways, and they're gonna be the most flavorful tomatoes that you can get. So if you're looking at what to grow and you're thinking about flavor, definitely consider growing a cherry tomato. The next plant I think you should grow for flavor is mint. Now, I know this one can be a little controversial, okay? So don't come for me saying like, if people plant mint, it's gonna go crazy and it's, gonna be so invasive and they'll never be able to get rid of it. I hear you, okay? Mint can really take over, but that also means that it's really, really easy to grow. Now, if you don't want your mint to go wild and just start taking over every corner of everything, grow it in a container. That's what I do. Works great. And also, again, when you can grow in a container, it's going to be more convenient for more different types of growing situations anyway. And mint is a plant that can come back year after year, so that's really great. You plant it once and you'll just have it coming back every year without too much work. And mint is something that can again, work in a lot of different cooking situations. You can use it in sweet foods, you can use it in savory dishes, you can use it in beverages, either as like a part of the beverage or even just as a garnish. And it just grows and grows and grows and grows. It smells wonderful. So to me, growing mint really is a no-brainer. And if you want to even take it up to the next level, you can get different types of mint. So I have a couple different types of mint growing in my container garden. You can get ones that have slightly different flavors. You can even find chocolate mint, which can be really fun. If you want to do kind of a related plant, lemon balm is another great one that has lemony flavor, so that's awesome. It's related to mint and has a similar, growing caveats about it spreading, but it can be a great addition to put in your garden. Now, food number 5, and this one you might think is a little bit like cheating, but I think it counts. My 5th food that I think you should grow for great flavor is any food that you really, really, really love to eat, especially ones that are expensive to buy or maybe hard to find for you locally. If you love to eat the food, then you should be growing it. I mean, that's just a rule for gardening across the board. Grow stuff you like to eat. You're going to be more likely to take good care of it, to harvest it, to actually use it in your cooking. A lot of times when you grow the food yourself, it tastes better than anything you could buy. Not always, but a lot of times that's the case. So if there's something you really love, do a little research, see what types of conditions it grows best in, if you can grow it in your area, if you need to grow it in the ground, or if containers are okay, what type of container, what size, all that kind of stuff. And then if you have the right conditions for it, make it happen. It's going to be so worth it for you because you already love it. So you're going to love mixing it in with all the different meals you're making. And it means that any meal you add it to is just going to take that meal to the next level, make it more tasty and enjoyable for you because you have one of your favorite foods on the plate. And if you're interested in this topic of making the food that you cook at home taste better, stick around because I have an upcoming video where I'm going to be talking all about how to make your food taste good and why your food might not taste good that you're making at home, because there are a few simple things that you can do that can really make your food taste better. So be on the lookout for that and let me know in the comments, is there anything that you would add to this list? Are there any foods that you really think, man, when I grow this in my garden, it really takes the flavor of my meals up to that next level? I would love to hear about it, and I'm sure that everyone else would too. So let's get those ideas flowing in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.